Mike Pence wants you to know that you will not be safe in Joe Biden's America. That's what I hear him saying right now as I listen to the end of his ridiculous speech at the ridiculous RNC, Republican National Convention, Night 3. Welcome to the Daily Faded. This is where we get faded daily and talk about the news and politics of the day. I picked up gelato, which is also what I'm growing in my backyard. So this is like a little preview for me. Before I get into the RNC, or more importantly, the news out of Kenosha and out of the Gulf Coast, let me do the nightly catch up on coronavirus. The world has now seen over 24 million confirmed cases of the coronavirus, with 271,000 new cases today worldwide. The global death toll is at 828,878 people, with 6,310 being reported dead today. The U.S. is ever so close to 6 million cases, just a few hundred shy. With 43,948 new cases today, we seem to be plateauing between 35 and 45,000 cases a day. It would seem that the most recent state of shutdown/reopening gets us to a base level of 35 to 45,000 new cases a day. So if we begin to reopen from this place, it's going to go back up. And that's what going back to school is. It is a form of reopening, and here it comes. We're up to 183,641 deaths as of today, with 1,277 deaths reported today. Again, we're steadily around 1,200 deaths a day right now. And in California, we have the most cases of any state in the country, with over 687,000 confirmed cases, 5,412 being reported today, and we had 140 deaths in California today, maintaining a high daily death rate, to add to a total of 12,547 deaths from coronavirus in the state of California. So I don't know how long I'm going to live stream tonight because I'm fed up. To see the things that are happening in the world today, and then to see a presidential nominating convention of some sort that doesn't address any of those issues, is to reveal the whole system to be a joke. At the RNC tonight, they had nothing to say to speak to a nation convulsing over the shooting of Jacob Blake. And the shooting of three protesters, two of them who have died last night in Kenosha. Aaron Rupar, who's a very good follow on Twitter, tweeted today, "A deadly pandemic rampaging, police brutality, civil unrest, systemic racism, economic calamity, massive hurricanes. The backdrop for the 2020 RNC is something akin to a failed state." And of course, he forgot to mention fire tornadoes and weird inland hurricanes in Iowa. And Matt McDermott tweeted, "On Monday night, Trump gave his national platform to a white man who used an AR-15 to terrorize Black Lives Matter protesters. On Tuesday night, a white man used an AR-15 to murder two BLM protesters. But please carry on praising RNC optics." I think that you cannot understate the importance of the McCloskeys at the RNC on Monday night and the celebration of two people who went and waved weapons at peaceful protesters, and the justifying of that behavior. And this kid who we've seen photos of him in the front row at a Trump rally. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I watched the Wisconsin AG press conference today, and he actually came off as quite progressive in the comments that he made. Wisconsin does have a law that requires independent investigation of police shootings in which someone dies. So it's already been taken over by the state investigatory agency. So that's good. The local DA will still be the one who will determine whether or not to indict the officer whose name I do not remember, but the name was released today, regardless of Sean King's doxing attempts. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 people last night. When he was walking away from the shooting with his hands up and the AR-15 strapped to his chest, several police vehicles drove right by him, ignoring him to go after protesters instead. He shot 3 people, and they're all, "It's good. Just walk around with an assault weapon on your chest, white boy. You're fine." There was video that shows him talking to police and police saying from their armored vehicles that they appreciate his support. The cops even gave him bottled water. There's another video showing Kyle and others planning with the Kenosha PD before they set off to kill people. The cop tells them to practice non-aggression, but also says if they get me down and they're beating me with a club, then come in shooting or something like that. So these guys have tanks and APCs on the streets of Kenosha. Kenosha, Wisconsin needs tanks to police its people. Tanks. So they have tanks on the streets, and I suppose they're there to protect people, law enforcement, to serve and protect, that kind of a thing. But the guy who just killed 2 people and seriously wounded a third is walking right by the cops. He's walking right by the cops. This incident is really an indicator of the white supremacy in our culture. The difference between Kyle Rittenhouse and Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake was walking away from a cop and got shot in the back 3 times. I'm sorry, 7 times. Got shot in the back 7 times and somehow survived. But this kid kills 3 people and shoots and injures a third. Let him drive home to Illinois. Milwaukee Bucks refused to play basketball tonight in the NBA playoffs, and the NBA ended up canceling 3 games. And I saw a clip from the NBA show on TNT where one of the hosts walked off. They shot him 7 times in the back in front of his 3 children. The video of Kyle Rittenhouse after he shoots his first victim, where he's talking into the phone, he's leaning over and watching as someone tries to administer first aid to someone that Kyle has just shot in the face. And it almost seems as if he's stunned because he doesn't act. And then he starts running towards the camera, and you have to listen carefully. as he says into his telephone, "I shot somebody." And then it picks up with the video that has him in the road where the crowd is coming after him because they know he's shot someone. And he falls on his own accord. He falls. And then when people get close to him, he starts shooting them, which of course is leading the right wing to call this self-defense, to claim that Kyle Rittenhouse killed in self-defense. When you take your gun and you drive across state lines and you're part of a militia that has been called out to come wave guns at Black Lives Matter protesters, you came there with an intent to do something with that gun. You cannot argue that you are protecting property because you don't even live in the state of Wisconsin. You have no right to protect that which you do not possess. I'm deeply frustrated today. I'm deeply frustrated. I'm worried about the Gulf Coast. A 15 to 20 foot unsurvivable storm surge. That's what the National Hurricane Center called it today. An unsurvivable storm surge. An unsurvivable storm surge. So I continue to think that Joe Biden is going to win the general election in November. I continue to believe that Joe Biden will be the next president. I know the polls have tightened a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and maybe Donald Trump gets some kind of a bump off of this convention, although I cannot see how. As tone deaf as it is, as irrelevant as it feels. However, between now and the general election in November, Donald Trump is going to get a series of curveballs thrown his way. One of them is happening right now. It's called Hurricane Laura. This thing could be as destructive as Katrina. This storm surge is going to overwhelm towns and wash out beaches and destroy roads. And is Donald Trump's White House, is Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security, is Donald Trump's FEMA up to the task of handling a hurricane of level 4 hurricane, whatever they call it, force 4, I don't know, whatever the fuck you call it, a 4. Is he up to that? Remember what happened when George W. Bush was president and Katrina happened? You remember that failed response? You remember the failed response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico? Almost 3,000 people dead as a result of our government's inaction. You really think Donald Trump can handle this storm, let alone 2 storms hitting the Gulf Coast? The brutal killing, attempted killing in Kenosha, and then the slaughter on the streets of Kenosha last night by a militia, Blue Lives Matter group, and they accuse the left of being violent when they come down and start shooting up our peaceful protests. Donald Trump can't handle the hurricane. Donald Trump can't handle systemic racism. Donald Trump can't handle black people being gunned down by cops. And you know what? Schools are about to open, and it's going to bring epidemics across the country. We're going to see stories in the news about teachers catching COVID-19 from their students. We're going to hear stories about parents and grandparents catching it from their children who are asymptomatic. Every day, there's another story about schools that have opened that have to close or have to quarantine students. There was another university in the news today or yesterday that had like 2,000 students. There's a big article in the New York Times where they looked at universities across the country and they found tens of thousands of coronavirus cases. So we haven't learned our lesson. We didn't learn our lesson from the first go through. We never got the positivity rate low enough to reopen. When they reopened in Europe, they had a low positivity rate. They had gotten it down to almost no new cases a day. We never got it down below 20,000 new cases a day. There's too much spread with 20,000 new cases a day. So that's coming to Trump. Consumer spending down. Consumer confidence is at its lowest in 6 years and headed down. The economic indicators are not going to be good because a major driver in the pandemic economy, which was the stimulus money, ran out. And Trump didn't have the leadership to continue it. Only 2 states are paying Trump's executive action unemployment of $300 a month. Only 2 states. So these fastballs are going to keep coming at Donald Trump. And he's going to swing and he's going to miss. Because he doesn't know how to president. He can't do it. Like Michelle Obama said. Yes, I know you're listening, the person who said that to me, so I give you credit. But it's true. Michelle Obama pointed out for the entire nation to hear that he's just not capable of doing the job. You know, and that's one of the more polite ways to indict the man. But it's an indictment nonetheless, and it's true. So that's why I remain optimistic that Joe Biden is going to win, which, again, I always have to say, I'm not so much interested in Joe Biden winning as I am in Donald Trump losing. And I'm prepared rhetorically to fight on November 4th. And I will have recovered from my shoulder surgery then, so I'll be ready to hit the streets. Because no matter what happens on November 3rd, we're going to need to protest on November 4th. People need to start getting that into their heads now. If Joe Biden wins the presidency flat out, straight up, landslide, then on November 4th, we need to be demanding Medicare for all. We need to be demanding the Breathe Act. We need to be demanding the Green New Deal. We need to be demanding the legalization of marijuana. Anyway, so the RNC tonight, Law and Order night, anti-choice night, a lot of women testifying to how great Donald Trump is to women. There was a absolutely deranged rabbi who gave a prayer that was all about praising Donald Trump that was bizarre and frightening and theocratic. It was not pleasant. So here I am canceling the rabbi. I don't really mean to cancel him. He can continue rabbiing and he has my respect, but I thought he was demented. Again, several black speakers, but no one speaks to Jacob Blake. No one speaks to that image of a man being shot 7 times in the back right in front of his 3 children. Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, Marsha Blackburn, senator from Tennessee, Dan Crenshaw, representative from Texas with the eye patch, who comes out and lectures us on duty, talks about American heroes and American heroism. But of course, that's not Democrats. Americans are all heroes, except for Democrats, except for leftists, except for anarchists and radicals. They're not heroes. A school choice advocate came out, so they were pimping school choice some more. Kayleigh McEnany talked about having a mastectomy preemptively because she has the disease that puts her 84% risk of developing breast cancer. And she talked about how Ivanka called her, and then the Donald called her. I guess the president called her. And then she lied and said Donald wants to protect people with pre-existing conditions. It was quite charming and heartfelt until that. If Donald Trump wanted to protect people with pre-existing conditions, he would drop the lawsuit through which they're trying to get the entire ADA thrown out as unconstitutional. Obviously, that would kill pre-existing conditions. So it was a big anti-choice night. A lot of stuff about protecting unborn lives, whatever you want to call it. And there was Madison Cawthorn, who's running for Congress in South Carolina, a fine, upstanding, young, white lad in a wheelchair because of a horrific car accident when he was young, who also has quite an inspiring story. Very touching story of how he got through tragedy. And then he goes on to be a rabid white right-winger. As usual, he bastardized MLK, which every time right-wingers and frequently corporate Democrats talk about MLK, they bastardize him or whitewash him or limit the context of what he's saying. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst came out and said the Green New Deal will destroy agriculture. And I can't even talk about Mike Pence because I was so frustrated watching this fucking train wreck and watching these people. It's I can't get away from the fact that they celebrated a white man who waved an AR-15 at Black Lives Matter protesters, and the next night one of their supporters went and shot Black Lives Matter protesters. That's the bottom line. Donald Trump is guilty of inciting violence. He is guilty of stochastic terrorism. Look at how many people have killed in the name of Donald Trump. There weren't people killing people all over the country in the name of Barack Obama. There were people killing in this country because there are always people killing in this country. But if there's a race war in this country, the violent side are these white supremacists. That's all I got for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out. I'll be back tomorrow to critique President Trump, who I'm sure will give a terrible speech tomorrow night. Anyway, I'll try not to prejudge it. Thank you for watching. Please hit like, subscribe, and notifications. And I'll see you again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Pacific. Peace out.